Colin, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Genuine.
When you moved out of your comfort zone, what misgivings, if any, did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
So I personally have a hard time being the front face of an organization, and that is typically what I do. I am the front face of my institute, the Cybersecurity and Privacy Institute at the University of Waterloo. So what I try to do is I position myself as a way to connect people and to help people, as opposed to any other way. And it makes it much easier for me to be that front face if I can be a helper.
Do you have a role model, if any, and if so, who does?
I actually don't have any role models. I find that it's really hard to find someone that could live up to a pedestal, and I wouldn't want to do that myself either.
What's the biggest unlearning the past year has taught you?
So I recently learned that, or at least labeled that I'm kind of neuroatypical. The way I look at the world is rather unique, and so I've learned because of that I am the exception and not the rule in how things are.
So leading up to the CFF event, what is the topic you're going to be talking about at the CFF event, and why does it matter to you so much?
I'll be talking about the innovation ecosystem and addressing the talent gap pipeline. I think that's really important because we need to look to the future and not be stagnant in addressing the cybersecurity and privacy challenges of the future. And we need to work together, brainstorm academic organizations, private sector. We need to work together to find these solutions. And through that, we'll also be able to address the talent pipeline. We'll have people influencing everyone around them and getting people up to speed.
Got it. Karl, how would you describe yourself in one word?
I'd say I'm curious.
What's your biggest setback so far, and how did you overcome it?
I was in a car accident last year suddenly and on the way back from school, and I overcame it with help from family, friends, and significant people in my life.
Where do you place yourself in 5 years and how?
I see myself becoming a cybersecurity advocate in the awareness domain, and I see myself doing that because the reason I got into this field propels me to that 5-year vision.
When you moved out of your comfort zone, what misgivings did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
Those, the misgiving I encountered were lots of stress, lots of uncertainty, ambiguity, specifically in my car accident, and I overcame them with lots of support, lots of hard conversations, and transparency and caring from those, my friends, my family, and people close to me.
And finally, leading up to the CFF event, what is your topic that you're going to be talking about, and why is it important to you?
I'll be talking about my journey as a cybersecurity student so far, and I believe it's important for me to talk about it because my journey is just unique. It's authentic, and I believe that by sharing it with others, it will inspire others to go into cybersecurity or pique their interest.
Got it. Scott, what's your life motto?
Energy and persistence can overcome any barrier. And that's paraphrasing Benjamin Franklin, right? Carpe diem. It's just amazing to me how often, if you just keep trying at something, you're going to make it happen.
What do you enjoy most in your area of specialization and why?
It's amazing to me how many times and how many ways cybersecurity and cyber peace is coming up these days. It's in the front lines of the ongoing war in Ukraine. It's coming up in how major social media companies are thinking about managing disinformation during the elections. It's coming up when new car companies are trying to figure out how to protect bystanders for autonomous vehicles, right? What keeps me energized is just the fact that the stakes are high, but that good people are doing great work every day to try to make the 21st century vision of cyberspace not only something we can survive in, but hopefully thrive in at the end of the day.
What's the biggest unlearning this past year has taught you?
Well, here's one. So coming out of 2021, we had a lot of patting on the back, especially in the international community, because for the first time, we were able to agree on a list of 11 norms of behavior in cyberspace. So these were going to be basically the norms for responsible state conduct. Of course, what we've seen in 2022 is norms only get you so far, right? Yeah. Because the question then is, hey, what happens, of course, when they're broken? I think the biggest unlearning is that, for all the good work that's been done on trying to reach consensus with some of the thorniest issues in cybersecurity and cyber peace, we still have a long road ahead of us.
And finally, last question. What's your topic that you're going to be speaking at CFF and why is it important to you?
Yeah, I'll be kicking off the Cyber Peace Hour. So we'll be talking about what's been happening in the field of cyber peace, including a brand new edited volume that just came out a few months ago that I co-edited with colleagues at Paris 8 and NYU, unpacking the concept of cyber peace. What is it? How can we learn from history? How can we learn from different analogies? And hopefully, like I said, build a vision of cyberspace that we can all thrive in.
Eman, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Passionate. I always make sure that whatever we do, work or life, we take it to the fullest.
What's the kindest thing someone has done for you recently?
I always appreciate the simple things in life. Just thanking me or recognizing what we do makes my day, makes me smile.
What's one thing that you're holding on to right now that you wish you could let go?
Part of me is a perfectionist. I always remind myself that good is often good enough and that we can keep moving forward.
What's the biggest learning, unlearning this past year has taught you?
Just the importance of being able to adapt, right? We've seen so much happen lately, and being able to kind of continue to move forward, remind yourself of what's important in life and make things work and make things better is huge.
And then what's your topic leading up to the CFF event and why is it of importance to you?
Well, I am passionate about solving the workforce crisis in cybersecurity. And so I'll be speaking about a program that we've launched, a national program to help hopefully solve the cybersecurity workforce crisis once and for all.
Awesome. That changed your course forever.
When I was running the project at DOJ and got hacked, and we ended up on the front page of the Washington Post.
What makes a heart dance and eyes light up?
My grandbabies. I just visited my new grandbaby, so I have 2 now.
Congrats. What's your definition of being successful?
Having a good family life and having a good, successful marriage, grandchildren, family, and that legacy that lives on.
What's one human quality you hold above all else and why?
Honesty. I think it's important for you to be able to trust what people say so that you can work on that. And it's just really important to me.
And finally, leading up to the Cyber Future Summit next week, what topic are you going to be talking about and why is it of value to you?
I'll be talking about small and mid-sized businesses from the Cyber Readiness Institute. And I am doing it because they're the economic driver of any country. And you can tell I get very excited about small and mid-sized businesses. And what CRI does is offer its resources for free. And so we are a solution for small and mid-sized businesses.
Amy, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Well, I think my husband would say I'm groovy, but in the professional world, I'm probably a little bit more intense. So I would say resolute, because resolute kind of characterizes a certain level of decisiveness and dedication and also loyalty.
When you moved out of your comfort zone, what misgivings, if any, did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
Coming to NightDragon really put me outside of my comfort zone because it's a pretty unstructured environment and it's a very early stage startup in many ways. And the way that I dealt with the lack of structure was to put structure in place, to put definition, metrics in place that were something that I knew that I was striving toward in terms of achievement.
What's your definition of being successful?
I think it's finding a balance between your personal life and your professional life and really striking the balance of health and happiness and success. The intersection of those 3 things are critical to anybody who's successful.
What's the kindest thing someone did for you recently?
It was probably when I had COVID just recently. My husband was fantastic and he made a nice little habitat for me upstairs. He put a refrigerator up there and really just took really great care of me. And it reminded me of how privileged it is to have him in my life.
Finally, leading up to the CFF event later this month, what's the topic you're going to be touching upon and why is it of importance to you?
So I'm talking about cyber talent and how to close the cyber talent gap. And it's an area that I'm extremely passionate about. It's one of my main focus areas here at NightDragon. And it's actually the first time in my life that I've had a personal passion in terms of helping the underprivileged, underserved to get into the exciting field of cybersecurity, intersect so neatly with a professional goal of making sure that our companies are scaled up with cyber talent. And so, and also making sure that we're building the cybersecurity workforce in the interest of national security. So it's something that I'm really pleased to be a part of at CFF. And I know that Val is a big proponent of it as well. And I look forward to the discussion.
Jenna, if you had to give up one activity in your life today, what would that be and why?
I would give up my day job so I could spend all my time working on cyber workforce issues.
Who's one person you really appreciate at this very moment?
My mother, because she taught me how to balance life and work and personal life and have fun while doing it.
What's the kindest thing someone did for you recently?
Someone brought me dinner the other day, and that was lovely because I didn't have time to cook.
Talking about dinner, if you could have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
Oh my gosh, I think I would have dinner with Barack Obama because I would just love to hear about his journey and about what he thinks is coming next.
And finally, leading up to the Cyber Future Summit, what's your topic that you're going to be talking about and why is it of importance to you?
I'm going to be talking about cyber policy, and that is so critical because the policy is what drives all the rules of the road and how we use the technology. And so I think that the policy aspects are often underappreciated, but so critically important.
Andrea, what's your definition of being successful?
After many years of trying to be successful, I think the most important way to be successful is to follow your passions and your talents and your skill set, and not let anyone try to change that in the wrong kind of way. So always follow your passion and your talent.
What's the best life advice you've received?
The best life advice I've received is pretty similar to what I just said, which is that knowing what your skills are, knowing what you're good at, working hard on that, and developing that as a real expertise, I think is a really important part of life, but it has to be matched with your passion.
What's the kindest thing someone did for you recently?
Well, I just went into a iPhone store and I had my two iPhones properly synced so that I could get my new iPhone working, and it was a really good customer service experience. So that's the kind of thing that's happened recently.
One life incident in your life that changed your course forever?
Meeting my husband. It was an amazing moment. It was many, many, many years, even decades ago. And we are peas in a pod, and he really knew me better than I knew myself. And he made suggestions about what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And here I am doing the passion project any professional could ever make. So I'm lucky that way.
And finally, leading up to the Cyber Future Summit, what is it that you're going to be talking about and why is it of importance to you?
I'm going to be talking about cyber governance or cyber risk governance, which is a passion project and topic for me, because if you don't reach the highest levels of an organization, I don't care if it's business, NGO, government agency, if the highest levels of an organization don't understand the governance that goes around cybersecurity, then all hope is lost because they need to provide the resources and the tone from the top.
Kelley, what's the most important thing you can see in the room right now you're in, and why?
My plant, because it reminds me of life outside of work.
What makes your heart dance and your eyes light up?
Adventure travel.
What's one advice that you'd give to your younger self from 10 years ago?
Take more of the help that came to me. I declined a lot of it because I felt bad. So take more help when it comes to you.
What's one human quality you hold above all else and why?
Integrity, because I just think it encompasses so much more.
And finally, leading up to the Cyber Future Summit next week, what are you going to be talking about and why?
Cyber risk and talent, and I know that's broad, so stay tuned for the specifics that come within those very broad topics.
Your definition of being successful?
I think it's having that sort of buzzy feeling of knowing you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I don't always feel that way, but certainly on some days I do, and I'm grateful for that.
When you moved out of your comfort zone, what misgivings, if any, did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
Very few misgivings, actually. I've gone back and forth between being a journalist for the Wall Street Journal and CNBC and working in cybersecurity. Every job kind of feels the same after a while. There's intricacies, there's paperwork, ability to make friends and keep those friends throughout all of those different iterations of your job. That's what keeps it going in a single linear direction, I guess.
What's one thing you did recently to help somebody and what motivated you to do it?
I have raised money for the domestic violence shelter here in New York City for a long time. Something that's very close to my heart. I am myself a survivor of domestic violence. So I also have begun a mission to help do some micro lending for small agencies that are in rural communities. That's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And I just think there's an enormous need for it out there right now.
What's one advice that you'd give to your younger self, let's say, Kate, from 10 years ago?
I think it would be just enjoy the ride a little bit more. Don't get too caught up in the business world. Sometimes things are just business and not personal. In fact, I think that's probably the majority of the time. So now, thankfully, I have that wisdom behind me and can enjoy things a little bit more.
Coming up at the Cyber Future Summit, what topic are you going to be talking about and why is it of value to you?
So I'm joining some of my friends to talk about the board and the C-suite and issues that they are facing after the Uber verdict. I think everybody is really concerned about that. So I think it'll be a really lively discussion, and boards are becoming more educated on cybersecurity than ever. So now we'll see how far that education has gone, I think, in the next few years.
If you had to give up one activity in your life today, what would that be and why?
Oh, I like my activities. I'm pretty set in my ways. But I'm a bread man. I like sandwiches and baguettes and bread. And so if I had to give up one thing, I would give up my bread, because it is in fact healthy for me to give up my bread, and my doctors would be happy. But it would be a sad day in Tom's life.
What's the best life advice you ever got?
Oh, I've gotten a lot of great advice from mentors throughout my life. I have to say, one of the most influential mentors was Admiral Bobby Inman, back when I first started to take on some big challenges in my career. He said, go read the book, The Little Prince, because the message in there is not just to envision a good future, but to enable it. And I've tried to live that my whole life, and I think I'm able to help with these advanced technologies.
Now, what's one life motto you lead your life by?
Tactical empathy. I try and bring tactical empathy with me to everything. Whether I'm chatting with somebody I just met at a coffee shop, or negotiating $1 billion deal, or working on world peace, it doesn't matter. I really try and do more than put myself in someone else's shoes. I try and put myself in their heart and their soul and feel what they're feeling. And it always leads to a better outcome for everybody involved. And what we're trying to do with quantum and AI and things like that, these are global issues. So it takes a lot of empathy to really pull together and get everybody implementing this in the best possible way.
And then finally, leading up to the Cyber Future Summit next week, what's the topic you're going to be speaking about?
This is a really good topic, I think, for the CFF. The CFF I work with every year, and it's just getting bigger and more important, more influential to people around the world. This is the emerging technology panel, which I have the honor to lead. So we're bringing experts from the cyber world across from quantum and AI and 5G, and talking about not only what the problems are, but what are the next steps? What do we do together to really take off and make the world a safer place?
And what's the best life advice you've ever received?
Don't ever quit. The you 5 years ago would never believe who you are today.
Who would you have lunch with, given a chance, dead or alive, and why?
Marie Curie. I think she is one of the most amazing scientists, and she constantly lived in the shadows of her husband and was never truly recognized for her work while she was alive. And I would just love to talk to her about that and see how she kept persevering, knowing that she was not being credited for all of her work.
What's your biggest life setback so far, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest setback is the fact that I flunked out of college the first time around when I graduated high school. How I overcame it was going back when I was 35 and never stopping. I'm currently working on my PhD, and I might stop after that.
What's the one human quality you hold above all else, and why?
Honesty and integrity, I think they kind of go hand in hand. Everybody makes mistakes, and as long as you own up to those mistakes and can move forward and move past them.
So leading up to the Cyber Future Summit, what are you going to be talking about, and why is it of importance to you?
I'm going to be talking about the National Cyber Teaching Academy, which is a grant-funded program where we created a graduate certificate for teaching cybersecurity for high school teachers. It's the first in the nation, and we currently have over 100 teachers enrolled nationwide. Part of the program is that we want our students all to experience a practicum. And with that would be a mini project with a cybersecurity expert, a job shadow for a few weeks. And we want to do that next summer. and I need to place 100 teachers with different businesses. So why it's important to me is that I want people interested. I want more industry partners. I think it's a unique way to continue in the cybersecurity education realm. And I think both students and businesses will benefit greatly from seeing both sides of the education and the industry side.